Welcome back. Secretary of State Tony Blinken left Israel today for a shuttle diplomacy mission working to maintain the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. But the problems that triggered the latest conflict still exist. In East Jerusalem, protests this morning outside the Israeli district court that's deciding the fate of 700 Palestinians living in the Silwan neighborhood who are threatened with eviction from their homes. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State was in Cairo meeting with the Egyptian president and then flew to Jordan to meet with King Abdullah. Egypt and Jordan, two countries that the secretary says are crucial to stabilizing the region. NBC Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent and, of course, the host of this program, Andrea Mitchell, joins us now from Jerusalem. Andrea, what are you hearing on the ground about Secretary Blinken's trip? Bring us up to speed.
Well, it's such a fascinating split screen, Casey, because here we see him with King Abdullah, who, of course, is a long-time, decades-long supporter of the Palestinian aspirations for a two-state solution to the peace process, especially with this fragile ceasefire. So he was briefing King Abdullah. We'll be holding a news conference, staying tonight in Jordan, coming back to the U.S. tomorrow. At the same time, we've got the people here in the neighborhood. I stayed behind to talk to some of them and found protests in the neighborhood, protests against what they see as Israel's occupation and spreading Jewish settlements in their historic neighborhoods. They've been there for generations. And that is one of the sparks to the original conflict here that, of course, ended after 11 days, after so many deaths and so much destruction in that fragile ceasefire. This is what I found when I went to the neighborhoods. Protest today outside the district court in East Jerusalem. Palestinians saying, "Youth, come and join us." And Silwan, which is their neighborhood, Silwan is precious. They want the evictions to stop.
I think it's just words. I think Blinken is very well aware of what's happening. I think Blinken is very well aware that dispossession, that settlements are taking place.
Now they have new hope after Secretary of State Blinken said yesterday Israel should stop evicting Palestinians and demolishing their homes. An Arab member of the Knesset, Israel's parliament, Ahmed Tibi.
Blinken is here these days. He should intervene, do something. Just to talk will not prevent this occupation from evacuate Palestinians and oppress them. It is time to intervene.
The first question I was asked when I got here is, what did Blinken say? What did Blinken say? They want to know, what did the U.S. Secretary of State say about the threat that they're going to be evicted from their homes? But Blinken is not here. He was already 572 miles away, flying this morning to Cairo, holding meetings in Egypt, and now on to Jordan. While in East Jerusalem, the protests continue to simmer. We don't know how this started, but we saw a 15-year-old boy getting beaten and then carried off by police. People are saying, "Leave him, he's a child, he's a child." As the Jewish settlements expand, the Palestinians are getting squeezed out. So let me ask you this. Blinken said there should be no more evictions, no more demolishing homes. What does that mean to you in the neighborhood?
We hope that this statement will be put for implementation. We hope that the Israeli government, the Israeli administration, that will listen to the Americans. And Zechariah, whom you just saw there, he says that this has all escalated in the last 4 years under President Trump, because President Trump embraced the Netanyahu policy of expanding the settlements from the Palestinian view, that is shrinking the land down to 13% of what used to be Arab East Jerusalem, and shrinking the possibility even of enough land to create the capital of a Palestinian state. That was not the policy of Republican and Democratic administrations until Donald Trump, and that's what they're trying to revise now. That's what the Biden administration is trying to restore, the chance, the hope of two states, trying to get back to the underlying conditions. But until he can do that, Casey, he's got to make sure that the ceasefire holds. That is exactly what he is trying to do in his trips today to Egypt and to Jordan, trying to shore up support. But here in the neighborhoods, people are saying, where is he? What are they doing? What is the U.S. doing to pressure Israel? And that is less apparent to them.
Andrea,
Casey?
you mentioned his visits to these other states, and that's partly driven by the fact that the Palestinian Authority has been a relatively weak actor here. And I know you've been reporting that Hamas has been strengthened in the wake of this. How does that all impact Blinken's overall mission there of keeping the ceasefire intact?
Exactly right, Casey. It makes it so much more complicated. The Palestinian Authority has, for years now, been weakened. It was very much weakened by being sidelined by the Trump administration. It has endemic corruption. There is Israeli claims that the Palestinian Authority skims off the top of any international money that goes in. So the Trump administration zeroed out historic support from the United States through the UN for Palestinian hopes. They closed the consulate here for Palestinian affairs. They closed the Palestinian office that has been open for decades in Washington, D.C. That is now being reopened, we believe. The consulate, Blinken said, is being reopened. But step by step, he's got to rebuild what had been decades of U.S. policy. And that's going to take time. And there may not be that much time because what's happening right now here on the ground is the possibility of another eruption. Both sides agree about that. And they are afraid that that could trigger another conflagration. And we would be back into that terrible violent cycle, which is terrible for both sides. The Israelis have told Blinken that they want to cooperate, they want to deliver, but there is a caretaker government. Netanyahu has lost power right now, and we don't yet know what's going to replace him.
All right, Andrea Mitchell, thank you, and we'll look for much more of your reporting from the region on NBC Nightly News this evening.